And we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Live Real Talk with Nina, which would be me. And today I have the amazing, fantastic, funny, and absolute all around kick ass Meghann Conter with me. She's the president, founder, and initiator of The Dames, which is a phenomenal all female networking. What would you call it?
Organization.
Organization. Thank you very much. Which I am a part of, and we'll talk about that in a second. But welcome, Meghann, first and foremost.
Thank you. I'm excited to play today. Should be fun.
So let's play. We will have fun. So, Meghann, just a quick introduction. You were born, and then we'll pick it up somewhere where it becomes really juicy. Why don't you share a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. Well, it definitely was a very snowy day with several feet of snow in Colorado back in 1979, but I will not take you through the last amount of years of my life. But where it really picks up and gets exciting, I guess, if you will, is after 6 years where I was in corporate and didn't feel any connection to my life as a professional, I was given the universal gift of losing my job because of the recession and being out on my own and trying to figure out what to do next. So luckily, I met several entrepreneurs who encouraged me to start my own marketing consulting business. And that's what I did for many years, beginning in 2009. And really throughout those years, I started out focusing on social media marketing and had a management company for a while and then a strategy company, which of course, you know, and everybody else knows that back in 2009 and 10, when you said, I'm a social media strategist and I have a social media company, people were like, what? What? You mean business on social media? That's never going to be a thing. That's a fad.
Yeah.
Well, we all see where we are today, right? We're here on LinkedIn broadcasting live and Facebook broadcasting live. But anyways, fast forwarding through years and different iterations and rebrands and recalculations, I found myself in several different networking organizations where I put myself in the leadership role because that's just the kind of person I was. I would just rise to the front of the room and was running other people's networking organizations, leads groups, and kept finding some challenges. And me being a woman growing my 6-figure business toward the 7-figure businesses, scaling, I just kept finding that everyone who was surrounding me, I had to really hunt to find other women who are facing the similar challenges at the same caliber, or God forbid, a higher caliber than me. And so, you can't become an expert skier. We'll just use skiing as the analogy for today, since we're getting into winter here in Colorado. You can't become an expert skier if you're hanging on the bunny slopes with the beginners. It just isn't possible. So the same thing goes with our businesses. And when we're growing, we all know that, the famous Jim Rohn quote that we're the sum of the 5 people we hang out with most. Well, it's the same thing if we're networking and we're hanging out with people that aren't at our caliber or higher. So that is really the initial impetus for why I started the Dames. And the other couple of factors were the 2% stat, which still remains about the same, but only 2% of women-owned businesses getting to that 7-figure mark, which led me into down the rabbit hole of curiosity of like, all right, well then how many get to the 6-figure mark?
Right.
Which has become a really interesting conversation internationally now. But, back then it was just here in Colorado, and the stat was around 12% of women-owned businesses get to the 6-figure mark, which means a vast majority of women-owned businesses never get past that hobby business stage of around 50K.
Wow.
And that's shocking to a lot of people in the United States. That's the primary stats. The different states vary, but we've started to look at those stats internationally. And as you can imagine, the stats are a little bit worse in a lot of countries.
I mean, I cannot tell you what I'm up against. I'm in the Swiss Alps right now in terms of male chauvinist behavior. Don't get me started. Okay.
We won't go down that road.
We won't go. Not for this round.
No.
Oh, and Elizabeth found us. Hi, Elizabeth. Thanks for watching. So
basically, what all those things were happening. I found myself, I like to say that, at most networking events, I would leave with either feeling drained because I'd had my brains picked within an inch of my life, or business card laceration wounds from being stabbed by people running by and just giving me their business card. Those typical behaviors of the old networking was what I kept running into over and over again. So I went into the networking witness protection program, which I devised it and I went into it, and I went into hiding for about 18 months. Using my marketing background and what I'd learned as being part of a business mastermind here locally, I devised our Power Partner system, and then I launched Dames events back in 2015. So that's really when we started here locally in Denver, just as in-person events that are always really fun. And we still do these now. We're going to be doing them forever. We have 8 chapters around the country and around the globe now, because we have a Canadian chapter. But we do the reverse mullet networking. So that means there's always the party in the front and then the business in the back. We've got the comedians that come and really entertain us and help us break loose and connect more authentically. Then we have connection that's facilitated and really deep and unique. And then we do inspiration from our dames of influence who run 7-figure businesses to show us, really to demystify that $1 million mark and to show us how it's done. So throughout the years, we grew and grew until 2017, when I had a vision of this company going international. We rebranded to the Dames from Denver Dames, and we launched our online virtual platform. So we launched that membership program that you are a part of now, and that we have now 500 members all around the globe who are part of, and started expanding chapters in 2018. And last year during the pandemic, we were really set up for success because everything, almost 80% of what we were doing was already online. And we already had that global first connection philosophy. And we were able to then just simply make some changes to our in-person events to put those online as well, and really start bringing together the fabric of women all across the world. So it's been a fun ride. Lots of changes, lots of
changes. Well, I think as an entrepreneur and a small business entrepreneur, our middle names ought to be Pivot. And that's what we do so well. And that's why some of us are still in business, right? Because we can pivot.
Absolutely.
So I have some feedback. Can you turn down your microphone just a touch?
Let's see.
I just turned mine down a bit.
I'm going to see if there's a way to do that.
Okay, because you sound perfect.
Change it all?
No, now I'm good. No more feedback.
Yep. Okay, cool.
Thank you. So a million questions. So where do I start? So I've been part of the Dames for a bit over a year now. From my point of view, first of all, I did sign up because I didn't want to be on the bunny slope with the other beginners anymore. I knew I needed to get onto the black diamonds really fast. So skiing analogy always works for me, by the way. And it's really been what I love about the Dames is that there's such a sense of sharing, supporting, and helping one another. And the whole concept of the power partnerships, it's just really been a place where I've been feeling so, taken care of, supported. Everybody I talked to has been phenomenal. And if I did, let's say, not just do a partnership, but also use someone's services, it's never because I've been sold to. It's been because the quality and the variety and the wow of what people offer. I mean, I bought this backdrop from Emma.
Malta.
In Australia. So talk about international. I'm working with some of the coaches that are in the group, and I've made friends. I've made real physical friends. I've actually met some dames in person. Wow.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit about the philosophy. You mentioned earlier, you were done with being stabbed by business cards and your brain being picked. And I know you have a training that you offer in the Dames, how to create powerful power partners.
Yes, absolutely. So this really came from the other main pain point, which a lot of us have experienced. That feeling when you walk into a networking event, whether it be online or offline, and you immediately feel that you have a target either on your forehead or on your back because someone starts to hunt you down as a client right away. And that's what gives networking such a bad reputation, because for some reason, at some point way back when, that's how people decided networking should look. We're there to either, if you're a career professional, you're there to find your next job, or if you're a business owner, you're there to find your next client. And that is the philosophy that has been repeated over and over again that I deemed unworthy and wanted to change. So really, that's where the power partner concept was born and came in. And so from the very beginning, it's been our philosophy to help our business owners and career professionals identify who their best power partners are using our strategic matchmaking process, and then to directly match our members with their best potential power partners and teach them how to build long-term effective relationships. Now, these relationships can have a lot of different results, like you mentioned. They can have, people can be designed to come together to cross-refer business. Sometimes it's cross-collaborate to form a new program or a new product or something that they can both serve together so that they can increase their footprint. Sometimes it's to be thought partners for one another and mastermind challenges and celebrate, the things that we're accomplishing together. And sometimes they just create these amazing business bestie relationships where we can call on each other because we know the things that we're tripping over on a regular basis. And we know that when we have someone we can talk to when we're falling on our faces, it's a lot better when they understand where we're coming from. So there's so many different byproducts of these relationships. But what is really important is getting matched with those strategic power partners. So in the Dames, you can always count on everyone being at the 6 or 7 figure level or being a director, VP, or higher in corporate. So you know that the caliber is already high, and there are things that we do within the Dames to really connect people like-minded, so that you're able to be matched with those people who have similar values to you. I can't speak today.
That's okay. So far, you've been making sense.
Yeah, and or that you're being matched with, let's say, similar people who are working with the same kinds of clients as you, but providing non-competing services. So we have 4 different methodologies that we use to match up people with their best power partners, and then teaching you how to build those long-term relationships, because it is different for a lot of women. We've come from these competitive environments where it's like, well, how could I possibly refer business to other marketing people when I'm a marketing person, which was me.
You see, and this is something that I kind of innately knew, but I really love doing the training that you offer because it put a name to it, or more likely it put it into a structure. And, yes, the differentiation of who's up and downstream from me, right? I always knew there were people like who's in the room when the decision is being made, or you have all these, you hear this terminology, but to really think of it strategically and say, okay, so if somebody needs video, in my case, where are they coming from? Who might send them my way after they've done, are done working with them, or maybe are still working with them, but they need, more of whatever it is that they need. And then, who's upstream, who's downstream, because you also, and I think this is what I love the most about the Dames, is the absolute 100% spirit of giving and serving. So it's not just the conversation about who refers people to me. There's an equally as important conversation of who can I send people to, right?
Exactly.
And, that's something I've started, for instance, with the Dames, is video marketing is as much a mindset. And, for a lot of people, scary pants, I'm never going to be seen on video because I'm too old, too fat, too skinny, too much long nose, or God knows what. And then there is a fabulous array of Dames who can actually help with that mindset issue and whip people into shape, so to speak.
Right.
Just want to say it nicer, but
metaphorically,
exactly. And by the way, we have quite a few people watching who are Dames, like Elizabeth and Janelle. Hello. Tanya, hello. And we have some gentlemen as well. So listen up, guys, learn something.
Oh, look, there's comments. Look at that.
Yes, yes. There's a whole array of comments. So
if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the comments then, so we can see them and answer them. That'd be fun.
absolutely, absolutely. And we have an affiliate link. Do I have the affiliate link? No, not yet. All right. We have a link. You can sign up. We don't need my affiliate. You can just sign up. But we'll talk about that in a second. If you're interested to find out more about the Dames, there's a round table, right, where people can get to know you and get to know sort of other people who are interested and see what the Dames have to offer in general. So let's talk about very precisely, because that's really a question that I find to be fascinating. I mean, we've talked about the different way of networking, but sort of the deeper philosophy behind not only networking. You've moved from Denver to the States, and now you have a virtual a group. I know there's two other Dames in Switzerland. As I mentioned before, I've worked with Emma in Australia. So how tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So basically, back in 2017, when I had that vision of expansion, it wasn't just expansion in Colorado or just expansion in the United States. It was expansion internationally. And so for me, I studied abroad in France my junior year of college and also my junior year of high school. I'm fluent in French, and I love everything that there is Francophone and about France. So for me, I've always had this affinity of doing international business. And so that, this vision that I had that is still super, super clear for me is, chapters all around the globe and these big events in a specific place in the south of France that I love, but big events being in many different countries, because women are in the midst of a very big paradigm shift. We are coming from a place where, 20 years ago, it was pretty rare for us to be in leadership positions at large companies. And it was rare for many women to be business owners and to be running successful consulting businesses or companies.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's relatively new.
Yeah.
But if you think 50 years ago, it was even more rare. And so while it feels like it's commonplace here in the United States, we can kind of go back to those original stats of there's not that many women who are at 6 and 7 figure business levels.
Yeah.
And while our mission is to get more women into the 7-figure mark and into the C-suite, the importance of that is not the money. The importance of that is what we can do with the money. The importance of that is the employment opportunities that we can create that are sustainable, that are valid, that are really, really strong. The importance of that is the company cultures that we can create that really, shake things up. And women, it's known and it's been studied and proven that women create dynamic company cultures. And we can really easier achieve our epic missions when we have the resources to do so. So it's really important to me that we really demystify the $1 million mark and we make it more accessible for others. So that's why we have our Dames of Influence who really, show us that they don't have 6 heads and they give us the peek behind the curtain of, what does it take to get there? But that is something that when we look at it on a universal or on an international level, other countries, the conversations are even more difficult, right? There's even less women who are in those high, let's say the top 15% of any company that they're part of, or any international, any of their industry even. The top 15% is rare for business owners and people who are professionals, women who are professionals, to get into that top 15%. So how do we do that? We have to start having international conversations, and we're going to begin facilitating world cafes where we are really talking about culturally, what are the differences as we start to interact cross culture? So, the way that you sell when you're in Europe versus when you're in Australia versus when you're in the US or Canada is very different. And so as more of us women recognize that it's the value of running our businesses and of growing our careers and our networks is no longer just staying within the 4 corners of our state or our province or our country. It's expanding to, holy cow, the things that we can accomplish when we are masterminding with or collaborating with as power partners, women in other countries, is through the roof amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's just look at the look at the comments. So Elizabeth's just saying she just interviewed Angela Santi from Italy, and I can only imagine what the conversation is there. I mean, Italy is like 5 kilometers airline from where I'm sitting right now, and I mean, I'm pulling out my hair up here, in Switzerland, but I can imagine Italy being even more so a hard conversation. And Diana says also, it's same. It's a very difficult conversation to be had in Colombia.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because I have, I did for years. I was moonlighting as cultural coach for high-end executives who either went from America to Switzerland, from Switzerland to America, and just to talk to them about how to be successful in business in the other culture. Back then, of course, never a differentiation between male, female, but the conversations I was having with the women that I worked with was such a different conversation than I had with the men. Because with the women, there was much more of not just a conversation of business, it was just intrinsically connected also the conversation of what is accepted behavior by a woman in the business place, right? I mean, that is a conversation we would never be having with a guy, ever.
Right.
And I think that is a conversation that I love the idea that you are planning to do that, and however I can support. That's actually something I'd be very interested in supporting.
Thank you. Yeah, and I really think that it has to do with the conversation around money and women being willing to have that conversation, where in the United States, it's become more commonplace to talk about 6- and 7-figure businesses. In other countries, it's not quite so commonplace. It's still quite taboo. And
you don't talk about money. I mean, Switzerland, the land of banking, you don't talk about money.
And we've got to, as women, shift that big time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of really outdated programming that we're running on. And it's, that's the same as it relates to our own personal growth. It's, what we believe in the Dames is you can only grow as much professionally as you're willing to grow personally. And a lot of those mindset shifts and blocks and ceilings have got to be shattered and eradicated in order for us to really be able to take the leaps to the next levels. And so it's, it's part of our ingrained into the fabric of our culture is trainings around personal growth and development, and conversations in our happier hours that are about deeper, conscious, connected conversations that we all need to be having as we are women who are evolving and growing our businesses, but also shifting that paradigm from, women should not be seen and heard to the opposite, which is we are badasses and we need to be seen and heard, and we need to be seen and heard in an aligned way where we are already aligned with our visions and our bigger pictures, and we know where we're headed, and we are so confident and steadfast that we can't help but not share it. And that's the confidence that we're really helping build more and more in the Dames, is like, how do we get visible, and how do we do it in a way that feels really good and that doesn't feel like we're making excuses or getting angry about what's going on around us, or, all of the things that really are still happening in our subcultures that we're having to fight and we're having to overcome.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, especially in New York, and, I've been in America for 33 years, but all of them in New York. And I know New York is not America. But, the conversation is so much further down the road in America than it is in Europe, in Colombia, etc. So, and I like the idea of us needing to forge the way. Like there's no one coming, right? There's no one coming to rescue us or show us the way. It's what we need to do with our own power and our own mindset and courage to stand up there and say, I mean, I'm at a point, I mean, I still hear to this day that I'm not being ladylike. And I always say, and that comment comes from my mother, lover. And whenever she says it, I say, Mommy, what have I done in the last 20 years that shows you that I have any interest in being ladylike? And that normally shuts her up for a couple of weeks. So, but it's really it's such an important conversation to have, and my hope is that there with the younger, the generation coming up through the ranks that can take so much more for granted, that conversation will become easier and easier
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. And that's what I admire so much about, there's people that talk crap about millennials, but man, they are willing to have deep conversations much more than my Xennial generation or Gen X's or baby boomers or, that conversation is becoming so much more commonplace. And we're starting to really, I think we should look to the younger generations for how we have those conversations easier. For them, it's just like, why is it not part of the conversation? It should be every single day. So,
well, in America, yes. Again, in America.
Yes, in America, so, right. And I think that all of this ties together with the concept of, building a safe, trustworthy community for ourselves as women business owners, where we're surrounding each other and we're surrounding ourselves by other women who are at and above our level, who share common interests and common values as us, like the relationships you've built in the Dames. Because when we're building those relationships, we're able to feel freer to talk about ourselves in a more authentic way. We're able to, watching the celebrations that happen in the Dames Facebook group, where women are doing things that they have never done before, because they have this support system and women to, bounce ideas off of and mastermind with, or they apply the concepts of power partnership and they start cross-referring business, and they're making six figures in their business in addition to what they were already making because of those referral relationships. It's like putting all of these things into our lives and putting them into play is what creates the paradigm shift, so that we can, as women, truly provide the services and the products that we are providing to shift the world. And that is truly how women are doing things. We've got to ditch all those old programs of I can't do it, or I don't have the courage, or I'm not charging enough, or whatever our stuff is that we've been fed by the media, and that we've been fed by our parents, or we've been fed by our culture. We've got to get rid of that stuff, and creating that, sort of surrounding ourselves with that cushion of safe space to really process these ideas is what's really important and necessary for us to evolve as women.
And that is what the Dames has certainly done. I mean, just for me and in this year, I mean, it's funny. I was just saying earlier, you are our 25th guest on the show.
Number 25. Whoop, whoop.
Number 25. And out of 25, I would say 20 have been Dames. Now, and it's always funny because when I talk to Bryn who works with me on this about it, I'm like, oh, and then I'm invited so-and-so. Oh, and by the way, she is a Dame. Which of course either speaks to me, just like, my sort of being lazy and just, keep inviting Dames. But I'm just joking. It really speaks to the quality. I mean, I rarely have gotten off the phone after an introduction talk with a Dame where I wasn't wowed. It just in terms of, ideas, in terms of feistiness of, and also just always immediately this spirit of offering help, offering support. How can we, be there for each other? And that has been invaluable, right?
Yeah, we're a lot of pioneers, and we're determined to shift cultures in our industries. We're determined to, in a positive way, change this space of, male dominated industries to being equal industries where, where men and women's voices are being heard equally. And, people ask, like, why a women's only group? And for me, it's, again, we talked about it a little bit, but that safe space where women are trying to ditch generations of programming. And we do that best when we can talk to each other and really problem solve and figure out, how are we going to get past this stuff? Because it's not easy. It's really deeply ingrained. There's a lot of habits that we have to get through, let alone, the typical things that affect humans like imposter syndrome. But we haven't even really talked about, the biases that we deal with in races still. And, the few, like how we are working in the Dames to really bring diversity to the group, but from that space of, we need to rise all of us women up. And there's so much work to be done in that space. And we all need to do our part. That's the truth. Elizabeth has an interesting
has a question. Yeah. So she's talking about women more often than not networking sideways because that's where their comfort zone is. Whereas men tend to go 2 levels up and then gain mentors that way. And whether you've noticed this, Meghann, and what your advice around that is. Great question,
Absolutely.
Elizabeth. Thank you.
That's a great question. And I can speak mostly from the women in business standpoint, not necessarily the women in
Corporate.
leadership of large corporate. That would be another interesting conversation. We should get you connected to some of our women who are directors and executives in corporate. But on the women business owner side, what I see is, I'll just tell this from a story. I can remember years ago, before I started the Dames, I was doing the social media for an international coach and speaker who was, running a 7-figure business, traveling all around the globe, and I was on her team. And one of the first things she said to me when I started, bless you.
Thank you.
When I started working with her was, Meghann, you don't put me on a pedestal. You don't see me as different than anyone else. And a lot of people don't talk to me because they're afraid of my bigness. They're afraid of my popularity. They're afraid of my success. They're afraid of a lot of things. And I think that's one of the major hindrances for why women don't go 2 levels up as business owners and why they don't engage in conversation with women who've at the 7-figure or 8-figure level. And I think we need to learn how to have a serve others first mentality, and that is always going to enable us to have conversations with those who are farther along. So when you enter into a conversation with someone who's running a 7-figure business, the same as someone who's running an 8 or a 6, whomever, your first attitude should be, I'm going to listen. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to figure out what would help them. I'm going to ask pointedly, what are you working on right now? What are your major goals? And how could I help you achieve those goals? Who do you need to know that can give you the fast track to achieving your goals? And if you can make yourself a resource or an expert that can help that person, I've had the most phenomenal collaborations with women who are running businesses that are 10 times the size of mine. And I sit there and I ask them, and I brainstorm with them and I mastermind with them. And I give them suggestions based on my expertise as a brand builder and marketer and provide a ton of value to them. And I do that without the expectation of reciprocity. And what I know happens every single time is whether it's that person or another person, it always comes back to me tenfold. But the other key piece here is to be really clear on what it is that you need and to be prepared when someone asks you, who can I connect you to? What do you need at this stage of business? To be prepared with not a wishy-washy, wobbly answer, but a really clear answer as to, hey, I'm looking for connections to, like for me,
this person.
Use myself as an example. I'm looking for connections to women who are leaders in major cities in the United States, Canada, and Europe who could be potential chapter presidents that are running stable mid 6-figure to 7-figure businesses, who are the dynamo star personality that love being around people and love connecting people and are a natural connector, and who are typically in marketing or business development or business coaching. Like that is very specific. And when I say that and people can hear it, they say, oh, I know this person and this person and this person. They start to make those introductions. Whereas if you asked me that question and said, who do you need to know or who do you want to be connected to? And I said, well, women business owners, you're never going to get any results. Literally never.
And I think, and that's why you always have the big ask in the calls, right? Is to be very specific around that.
Right. Yeah. And those are just a couple of tips to really think about is, first be willing to connect with people and remove the stigma or the beliefs that you have around women who are at the top being, oh, now I'm going to forget, Miranda Priestley in The Devil Wears Prada. Remove that belief and say, how can I talk to the person right now? And, how can I strategically get connected to those who are running those bigger businesses, maybe in my industry or, whatever. And how can I serve them first? What can I give them? And then be clear on what I want if they ask me that same question. So that's just some advice.
I think, and brilliant advice at that. I think for a lot of, and maybe this is a female thing, I don't know. But I would think that maybe people are, and I would certainly fall into that category, not want to inconvenience or not want to be a bother to somebody who's, so successful and so, good at what they do. And I think as women, we might tend to want to be a little bit more thoughtful or not as demanding. And I think that is what I know that's what would hold me back from even, I mean, I would even think as far as to say, like, who am I to ask a seven-figure person how I can help them? How could I possibly help them? And that is the completely wrong way of approaching it, obviously. Yeah.
And that's very commonplace. And I would say that what's really important is to be in alignment with what you're asking for and to really think about it from that perspective of, am I demanding too much from this person? Am I expecting too much from them? Or, the question would be, what would be the right amount of an ask for this person that doesn't make them do a bunch of work for us? So we talk about in the Dames trainings around power partners, having your ducks in a row, having your one pager that helps your power partners understand exactly who you are and what you do and who you serve, having an introduction paragraph at the ready for them to make an introduction for you, having those things ready so that when you say to someone who's at your level or above or wherever, you say, this is what I'm looking for, that you have the things that make it really easy for them to spend 2 minutes to do whatever it is you've asked them to do. Now, if you're asking for them to, collaborate with you to create a whole new business endeavor, that's probably a little bit of a high ask.
You might want to ask until the second date to go there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You might want to date a few times before going to that level. But I think, in most cases with women, our main problem is that we don't ask for help. Our main problem isn't that we ask for too much. Now, of course, I've come across those who do ask for too much.
There's notable exceptions.
There's no doubt about that. But it's really, really keen to understand, how can you provide value and to know that every single one of us has an area of expertise that is valuable. So really thinking about, if you're going to talk to someone about their business, and there's rarely a time when I can find someone who's not a good example of being able to share your expertise with anyone. You always have an area of expertise. If you think that you're a Jacqueline of all trades, that may be an issue for you to be able to provide value to someone. But if anything, making yourself a resource and being a connector is the best place to put yourself in when you're trying to network, by far.
But I totally agree. Totally agree. So to shift a bit. So a perfectionist walks into a bar.
I think realizes that he had set it too low.
Leaves it again because the bar wasn't set high enough. That is from your newsletter that I got. Was it yesterday?
Right. Yeah. And I forgot the punchline already.
You've already forgot the punchline. And I'm bringing this up for a reason. You are a comedian.
Yes. Well, I'm an improv performer. There's a difference.
Okay. So do tell me a little. Yeah. So I do want to get to that a little bit, just for a hot second, because I find it a fascinating topic.
Yes. So honestly, what that came from is me ditching the limitations and the limiting beliefs that I had, that marketing had to look a certain way, and really stepping into my my joy and my authenticity, thanks to our mutual friend Shannon Hernandez for a lot of this, and to Melanie Hirschhorn, also a fellow Dame, who really helped me just say, you know what, the people who absolutely love the characters are the exact kinds of people you want in the Dames. And that is so true. So I've worked with my amazing coach, Ron Ben Joseph, for years now, and we've developed some great characters. So I've got Sylvia, who's my upper East broad, who, she's an Italian and she's very strong. And she comes out with a lot of different advice, and she does contests and all kinds of stuff. And I've got Margie, who's up north in Minnesota, and she's just such a wonderful person, but sometimes she just doesn't quite understand how business works. And so we got to work with Margie sometimes.
Yeah.
And then I have Kaleidoscope, who's a really annoying, really pesty networker who just wants to, sell herself to the first person who will talk to her. And we just have a lot of fun with developing these different characters and putting out videos that amuse people and show the conundrums and the kerfluffles of networking. And
I just saw a video with Kaleidoscope, I guess, the card stabbing one. That was very funny. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So a couple of years ago, I did a year of improv, and then I started really getting more into the sketch comedy side of things. But I love doing improv exercises, and at all of our in-person events here in Denver, I'm always doing either improv or sketch comedy to really break up the content, and we call it edutainment, and that really helps drive the content home for people to, have that scene in a way that they remember. And humor just has this way of unlocking people and helping them retain information that not many other things have. So that has been something that I've just been having a blast with and will continue to do more and more, and really start to put out there, even more. So thanks for asking.
Bravo. Very good.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to be able to market in a way that is really unique and it is in alignment with who we are and what our gifts are.
Oh, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And, being a video person, obviously, that's an art form. And I've actually been getting into art a little more myself.
Love it.
As well.
So speaking of video.
Yes, I was just going to say, speaking of video. So how can we use video to strengthen on one hand, our networking, but also our power partnerships? Any ideas around that for us?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to take a page from the book of Janelle Kennedy, who's watching us. She is our Las Vegas chapter president. Hello, Janelle. She does a fantabulous job of using BombBomb to create videos and send them to her power partners. Anytime she's met someone, she'll send them a quick 1-minute video that's dedicated straight to them. And that really helps build that relationship and that rapport. Oftentimes I will use video or audio clips in LinkedIn or in Facebook in Messenger to reach out to and contact and connect with my power partners. But really, I think what's important here is that video is such an important tool to deepen the relationships that we've built. And if we can just think about how we could connect with our audience better, connect with our power partners better by doing video. And it's so simple, really. It is like sitting down for a minute and knowing what you're going to say, but popping out with 3 points that you want to cover so that you can stay in touch with your power partners. It's so much more impactful and memorable than, a written form. And that's, again, not universal, because there are some people who don't like video, but I would say most people connect more with video than they do with a written form. So, it's knowing your audience and it's knowing where you shine. I like to joke that if, the reference to my big fat Greek wedding, if you are dry toast, you probably don't want to do video or audio for that matter.
or audio for that matter. Yeah.
Or audio for that matter. But there are a lot of us who, can be enthusiastic, at least to engage our people for a couple of minutes. And if you're not, you can probably work with Nina and figure out how not to be dry toast. But really, there are some ways. There are some people who you just shouldn't do video.
I have a friend of mine who says, "I have a face made for radio," and I'm like, "Okay, yeah." I disagree with him, by the way, but yeah, that's what he thinks. And I mean, and there's so many great platforms out there. You mentioned Bonbon, and I know Janelle and I have talked about that. We use Dub here at Clockwise. I love Dub. They've been also very good to us. So, there's quite a few platforms out there. The important thing is just really that you do it, right? And not just keep thinking about it.
And when you think about, the ways that I do contests in the Dames and ways of getting our members to engage are using video and dressing up as one of my characters. So I think the importance there is, how can you be unique? And boy, this lack of sleep is showing up big time. Standoutable. That's not a word, but it is now.
That's a great word. I like that word. Yeah.
How can you really, truly pierce through all of the same stuff and find that thing within you that's so different from everyone else and augment that, amplify it?
Yep.
And I think that's what so many women are afraid to do.
Yeah.
And if they just did it, if they just unlocked that thing and they really brought it to life, it could change everything about their marketing. And I'm, for me, it's marketing hardcore all the way, since marketing since 1997.
Agree.
It's at the core of everything that I do. So
yeah, absolutely. So if anybody is interested in learning more about the dames, I know one can go to the website, right? And I think our trusted Bryn in the background is going to throw that into the chat. I'm getting a thumbs up.
Yes.
And then also there is a link for something called the Roundtable. So tell us quickly about that, Meghann.
Yes. So if you are a woman who's running a 6 or a 7-figure business or in a director or VP or higher role in a corporation, we invite you to come to a roundtable. They are a fun, experiential way, a 75-minute event to really experience everything almost. Got a frog in my throat now. Everything almost that is the dames in that 75-minute period of time. You'll get to meet other women who are similar caliber, higher caliber, and really experience the fun, the connection, learn a little bit about power partners, and learn about membership. So that's the best way to come on in and see who we are in action. If you're in a town where we have a local chapter, you're welcome to register and come to one of our extravaganza events. That's on the website as well. But the roundtable is a great way for anyone, anywhere who qualifies to be able to, any woman to experience the dames.
Excellent. Very good.
And if you are a gentleman and you know some extraordinary women in your life, please send them to us as well.
Yes, Tom and Nick and Brandon and all the other guys who've been kind enough to leave us some messages while we've been doing this. So
that's right. And if I get to the point, yes, I will create the dudes. It will come if I get to that point. I've been asked that question many times. You create something different for the men. Sure, I will.
But
create
can you run it?
No, I will create that in collaboration with a man. That's what I will do at some point.
All right.
But I've got a big mission to achieve here first.
Yeah. One thing at a time. Although, I always say why. I had another family member always say, don't overdo it.
Yeah, and I'm really more joking than anything.
Yeah. And my reaction to that is always, nothing was ever accomplished by not overdoing it. You know what I mean? I didn't run a marathon by not overdoing it running,
Absolutely. And I'm an Enneagram 7 who has the tendency to see shiny objects. And I have learned and worked on myself for years to be focused. So I'm focused on the mission of the dames.
Two different things, right? Focused and shiny object is one thing, and overdoing it and being very focused on what you want to do is another thing. So
very true.
Very true.
Thank you for this conversation, Nina.
Thank you so much, Meghann. Is there any question that or answer that you're burning to give me that I neglected to ask you?
What is the meaning of life, Nina?
Oh dear, yes. Okay, so I think I'm breaking up.
Just kidding. I would just say, think about your relationships that you've been building, and give yourself a rating on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being, I'm business card stabbing people and I'm meeting them and that's about it. Or I'm friending them on Facebook or LinkedIn, connecting to them and that's about it. Or 5, I am every single day connecting with amazing people who are helping me further my career and my business and whom I am helping further their lives, being the 5. And whatever you can do to move yourself closer to the 5, do it, because it will make your life better. It will make your life more significant, and it will certainly improve your business to the tunes of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and more. Yes. That's what I will leave you with.
Aim into that. And the dames will help you get really close to 5, if not a perfect 5. So that's why we're in the dames. Yep.
That's absolutely right.
Yes. Meghann, thank you so much. This has been fantastic, and thank you for I feel very honored to have this one-on-one time with you.
My pleasure. It was so
and
fun.
This has been absolutely fabulous. So
I 100% agree. Thank you for your amazing hostessship. There's
oh,
another new word I made up.
new other word. Yes, you're very welcome. And ladies, run, don't walk, and check out the links that we put into the chat. Hey,
Thank
and Chella just said hi as we're about to say goodbye. Hi, Chella.
Hello. Hello and goodbye.
All right. Bye,
That's
everybody.
all for now.
And we'll see you again in 2 weeks.